And now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon Rhymes is out today. You've got your backup quarterback, James Degerome, in the chair. Let's concentrate on maybe Fitzmagic, some kind of backup, but not Don Strock. My girl always gives me the worst backup possible. So we're going to concentrate on coming off the bench and having a good game today. We got some great guests. As you know, the show is all about you. It's about being a consumer advocate here. We want to provide some information and some knowledge. And that way, you'll be more informed when you make your purchasing decisions out there in the marketplace. Brandon has committed this concept to radio. He's done it for 6 years now. I'm the producer of the show. I work with Brandon for a couple of years now. I want to thank him for doing the show and for giving me the opportunity to come on here and sit in his chair when he's not here. And as usual, the show, as I said, it works because we collect partners. The show is a team, and we get together here to provide some information for you. To that end, I've assembled some partners in studio. We've got one of our longtime contributors, Diane Vance, Fairway Independent Mortgage is here. Hi, Diane. How you doing?
James. Thank you for having me today.
Now, Diane, usually you're dealing with Brandon. He knows all this interest rates and markets and all that stuff. So we're going to have to go back to square one with me a little bit.
Okay, that's good.
I
can do that.
Don't be afraid to explain everything to me.
Okay.
Heather Lalk, fit to a T. Heather is coming to us, a nutritionist, exercise, science, all kinds of things. What's going on over there, Heather?
Got a lot of great things going on down in sunny Dunedin. So,
that's where you're located.
Yeah, right downtown. So it's all a buzz right now.
So nutrition, exercise, workouts, the whole thing.
Yeah, I also do a lot of workshops too to educate the community.
Great. And now you've got events coming up, so we're going to touch on some of that as well. We've got Clyde Smith from the Bilmar Beach Resort on the phone. Clyde, you there?
Hey, James, I'm here. How are you today?
Great. I wanted to check in with you because it's spring break, and I know, all the kids come down, but your hotel is one of those ones I love. It has the charm of a non-chain kind of we talked about that a little bit in the past. You guys have kind of unique feel down there.
Absolutely. It's great to be an independent hotel. We can, do things as our guests need them, not so much what comes from an office somewhere
Right.
up in D.C. or elsewhere. So it's great. We run, both restaurants, Sloppy Joe's on the beach, and, of course, the Beach Cafe, both of which just got new menus, so that's going over really well.
Now,
it's a good spring break crowd. I'm looking
I was going to say, the season,
right now, actually.
I know you guys are busy all year round, but this is kind of peaking, huh?
It definitely is peak season. Actually, February was terrific for the beaches this year, so we started a little early. Normally it starts after Valentine's Day, but all of February was terrific. We've seen a lot of our Canadian friends make it back after a couple of years taking it easy, so that's been fun. And we're definitely extremely busy.
Now the spring break thing, it goes for a while. I remember as a kid, of course, March through April, something like that. It goes for quite a while.
Yeah, generally it goes to about a week after Easter. So wherever Easter goes, so does spring break. We've got a few colleges that are out now. The middle of the month is when the colleges really peak out.
Okay.
Although we still have rooms to sell. We've got some people are adjusting their travel schedule a little bit depending where they're traveling from.
Mm-hmm.
But even though we're going to be running 90% occupancy for the month, there's still some great values out there.
So I know we talked a little bit on the show about the impact this coronavirus has on the marketplace in terms of real estate and all the things Brandon talks about, interest rates. How about in terms of travel plans? I know some people are altering a little bit of their travel.
Yeah, we don't. This time of year, we don't have as many international travel, and that's a good thing, all things considered. Most of our travel comes domestically, and it comes from a lot of the East Coast all the way over to Illinois. And so far, we have not seen much interruption. People are concerned. They're asking what we're doing. We've taken a lot of additional steps, through the front desk, everywhere from sanitizing the keys that get handed in to just a few extra steps being done in restaurants and in the guest rooms. But so far, we feel very confident that the people are still going to travel. In fact, there's been some additional calls from our drive-in market, our friends from
Right.
Orlando and, places that maybe they were planning to take a cruise over somewhere and said, let's cancel that for now or at least postpone it and stay domestically. So we think it's going to end up being a great season for all.
Yeah, the weather's been really good. I know it's warming up a little bit for you. So those folks coming down are going to get those bright red suntans that I love to see when they come down from up north.
Absolutely. We feel bad when they get a little too pink, but overall they're doing pretty good.
I like
We've got the shade out there if they need it.
The boiled lobster, I see that all the time when I would go to the beach. It takes 2 days, and then they realize it's way too much.
Yeah, Walgreens does pretty well this time of year with their sun care product.
Tell me what else is going on down there. You guys always have events and restaurants and stuff for people to do, but this season I'm sure it's busy as usual.
It is, but even despite how busy it is, we did roll out a brand new menu in Sloppy Joe's, and that's been going over really well. Probably the biggest change we've had in the 14 years I've been here, and it just rolled out some better options for the customers. We actually added a filet, we added a lobster, kind of stepping it up a notch. We have 5-tier wines now versus just jug of wine we had 10 years ago. So, the customers getting a little more sophisticated, so we're trying to follow them. And then the Beach Cafe has some great new breakfast items out there. We added a bistro platter, eggs Benedict, and my favorite, the shrimp and grits. So everyone's been enjoying those.
I'm telling you, you got so many food options down there. And, of course, I can't stop. I always think about seafood every time I'm down near the beach area. So you guys
we
do a
make
great
sure
job.
we keep the best fresh-caught grouper. So our grouper sandwich, there's a lot of competition for that in this area, and I think we step up where we need to, and that's really good. And, of course, we always have the lobster cheeseburger, which is a special thing. It's a full-size cheeseburger, and then it's topped with lobster meat, and on top of that, we put our lobster bisque. So just don't tell your doctor.
For that, Clyde.
Don't tell your doctor.
Hey, Clyde, I was going to ask you. You've been in the business for a while in the hotel and hospitality, and of course, spring break. I have all these memories as a kid of spring break and how much I love it. I wish the whole business world embraced spring break as a concept. What are some of the what do you remember? Hotels, anything stick out to you as a kid or travel or any places you went for spring break?
Well, for me, it was interesting. We used to always do our Easter egg hunt in the desert out in Death Valley, which is the easiest Easter. You can see it for like a half mile away. So we traveled out from California a lot when I was growing up, and then we moved to Orlando, and spring break was mainly done all around Cocoa Beach at the time, and which is one of the reasons I moved to this area, because it reminded me so much of growing up over there in the smaller beach communities.
Yeah.
And then Disney's always been a big spring break for me, and we get a lot of customers that do that. I always recommend they do the beach after Disney so you can unwind a little bit after the lines.
That's a good idea.
We get people that do that, and again, the cruise market's so big out of Tampa Bay, and a lot of people, even though they're out on the boat sitting there, they want to, do their domestic thing, and they come over here after their cruise. So we've partnered up with some of the cruise lines and have a stay-and-play package that is real fun. So you can get a little taste of both worlds.
I'm always impressed with how quickly the hotels and everyone adapts. When I was a kid, it seemed like Fort Lauderdale was a destination. And over the years, it changed to Daytona, and you saw kids going to Cancun and Key West, and they become regional. It's nice that you guys are just locked into a place where it's consistent, and everyone knows what to expect when they come down to the Bilmar.
Yeah, we are. And we do a lot more families and couples than we do, the college kids. I mean, we kind of price it that way accordingly. We, in the summer we get, maybe a few more younger people, but it's a nice balance. And what I love to see is as they all get together, you see out in the pool area, you'll have some families with the young children, but then you'll have, grandma and grandpa sitting there and just as happy to see them. So it's really a nice balance. And we do our entertainment to balance out with that too. Last night we had a full house for Dixieland Jazz. And that's terrific. That's a group of Dixieland players have been playing here since 1967. And then tonight they're going to do Bandingo, which is a fun, game. And now Sloppy Joe's has entertainment 7 days a week. We rolled that out this year, and it's been fantastic. So no matter what day you come out, you're guaranteed to hear someone strumming a guitar. And often we have duos and trios that are playing on the weekend.
And people love live music, man. That is a big draw.
You can't beat that. Then you go out on the beach. Of course, we have such a large beach here on Treasure Island that you don't feel all compacted like you do. Even in the old days of the Daytona spring break, you'd have 50 people within 10 feet of you.
Yeah,
Treasure Island Beach is so nice. As Brandon and I joke about it, we call it a 2-beer beach.
That's right.
Because it takes about a beer and a half to get down to the water's edge. But once you're there, it's just so peaceful. And, of course, all of our guests get an hour of kayak and paddleboard a day. So even the weather's a little chilly down in the water, but they're still out there doing it.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing you notice about the folks from up north. They don't care. I'm not going to the water when it's 60 degrees. They love 60 degrees.
That's it. It's warm to them. It's better than the lakes and what they're used to up there.
Well, Clyde, I've got Diane, Vance, and Heather Lalk in the studio with me, and I'm going to put them on the spot too and ask them a spring break memory or someplace they've went or something they did, spring break, kids, whatever it is. Tell me a spring break story, Diane.
Well, I grew up in Ohio.
Okay.
And I was one of those people that I would wear shorts when it was 50 degrees. And I remember spring break in Daytona Beach.
Yeah.
And my girlfriends and I came down here, and we actually stayed in a dive hotel, and literally there were so many cockroaches that we slept with the lights on and wore our sunglasses. So that's what I remember about
Daytona.
spring break.
It was like, you can drive your car on the beach. I was
Yeah.
like, boy, too many cars on the beach.
Yeah.
Heather, anything stick out or anything you remember about spring break as a kid?
No, just growing up, I didn't really come down south when I was
Right.
growing up in Wisconsin. But we had Lake Michigan, and then I'd go to Lake in Michigan to Lake Superior, which that I think in the middle of summer is 60 degrees. So you
about
jump
that?
off Black Rock Park in the rocks, and it's 60
I
degrees.
saw a crazy thing about surfers on the Great Lakes. They surf on the
It's
Great. I had no
huge.
idea.
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah,
we used to do that.
And it's windy. I
Yeah, it
mean,
is.
my son lives in Chicago and Lake Michigan, and it's blue as can be, and it's windy.
Brutal.
Well, they need to come down here to the Bilmar Beach Resort, right, Clyde?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I promise you won't need to sleep with the lights on.
That was many, many years ago.
All right, Clyde, thanks so much for coming on the show all the time like you do and giving us some places to remind us to go. Right here in our backyard, we've got such beautiful places to go, and sometimes you forget about it. And you do a great job of attracting locals as well.
We love our locals. They keep us going and keep the staff employed year round, and that's one thing that we're real proud of here. We don't hire for season. We every month is a season. We just change up exactly who's enjoying it. But we certainly welcome our locals, and we also year round give the locals a discount. So just call up and tell us where you're from, and we'll find the perfect thing for you.
Thanks again, Clyde. And once before you go, just hit me with that booking information. I hear you and Brandon talking about the best way to book.
Absolutely. Best way to book is directly with us. So BilmarBeachResort.com, or you can call. We have our reservation staff right here. We don't send you off to some other state or some other country to book your reservation. And it's definitely the best value to book directly. We going through a third party, I know what the ads say, but if you check it and really look thoroughly into it, not only will you get the best value by booking directly, but you also get someone that really cares what your experience is going to be about. So call us directly, BilmarBeachResort.com.
Sounds good. That's Clyde Smith, GM, Bilmar Beach Resort. Check him out. You want to go down there and look at the hotel. It's really fancy and beautiful. Thanks so much, Clyde.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great spring.
All right, we're coming into a break. We got a feel-good story like Brandon always does. I got Diane and Heather here. Lots of information for you. Come on back. Consumer Quarterback Show, ConsumerQB.com.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show. For more information, go to consumerqb.com.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, this week we're going to talk about something exciting as usual.
We always have something exciting.
Yes, we do.
At least it's exciting to us.
But this is a question that comes up.
TV, hey, it is Friday night. We're not here. Yes, we pre-recorded once again because WeBeam TV is working over in Tampa with Gen.Mgr star.
62 Who Knew. I almost said Professional Mortgage Alliance, Joe's Bar and Grill. But actually, it's our 39th week. 62 Who Knew.
We're at the wonderful steampunk event at the Verizon Event Center here in 2019. I think it's still August, right? Yeah. Woo! Can't remember Ask it to me about
Yeah.
To be able to help businesses to do that part of it. But it's just been a couple of years.
Well, and I've taken the business card files from our business cards and made
Entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay, welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections
Ian
for
Beckles on Radio Influence.
Or you say left hand white, and then they catch the left hand white. What it does, it helps you quick with hand-eye coordination. Yeah.
Well, that's kind
as your super connector. We want to introduce you to our 50+ show partners. We got over 80 categories of expert contributor advice here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and we want to
That's where we disagree, but that's okay.
I said nonviolent.
That's okay.
Because, we're one of the only states that don't give them back the right. Got Jamie Limbaugh. He is from the Next Step image. I love that image because you were telling me earlier.
For the type of republic we actually are is actually very correct. Yet politicians and regular people use these words interchangeably, even though technically they are very different.
If you're an overdoer, overachiever, people pleaser, we tend to neglect ourselves. Mm-hmm. And even as Sisters Connected here, with Women Unscripted, I know.
You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, you're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is out today. My name is James Degerome. I'm the executive producer of the Consumer Quarterback Show. The show, as always, is committed to providing some information and some knowledge for you folks out there to empower you when you're making your purchases in the marketplace. We've got Diane Vance here. Now, Diane's from Fairway Independent Mortgage, does a great job with Brandon. You've heard them discussing all the intricacies of real estate. You might not hear that today because I'm a little more simple in terms of that field. So, Diane, have mercy on me. Tell me something that's going on besides the interest rate story that we're going to get into.
Yeah, well, what's going on is the Feds actually had an emergency meeting. And it actually it caused a half a point decrease into the prime rate or the rate.
And just hold on one second so I understand. That's them in trying to encourages
businesses, yeah. So it affects your equity lines. It affects business loans. What mortgage interest rates are, that plays into it. So our interest rates, or everybody's interest rates, change daily. Mm-hmm. So every day it depends on what the 30-year mortgage-backed securities are selling for. And when you see the stock market dropping, typically that's good for interest rates. Okay. And the 10-year bond also affects the interest rates. But the global economy, like tomorrow, the unemployment figures will come out. So that may actually affect interest rates again. I'm actually letting my customers know that maybe if they have a home, they may want to float their interest rate for a while. Because once you lock your interest rate, we actually commit to that. Okay. So we commit to the secondary market that we're going to give them this interest rate, okay? And if the interest rates start falling, you can typically renegotiate, right, but it's not as good as if you wait to lock. So I'm letting my people know that, any of my customers know that maybe that's what they want to do. Now, if they're satisfied, because every eighth of an interest rate, depending on your loan amount, is a very small amount. Mm-hmm. So, people get all wrapped up in the difference in, 3.5 to 3 3/8.
And those are the kind of changes we see.
Right. It's not huge swings one way or the other. It's typically going to be a very small movement. It's not something that is making things move so drastically where you're going to see an interest rate drop 0.5% in a few days, okay, or go up 0.5% in the interest rate. That's not the type of market we have. It's a very global economy. Right. So as economics go, you see all over the world, anything can make interest rates move. Mm-hmm. And right now, the interest rates are, I think, the best they've been for several years. And if you're thinking about refinancing, you probably want to do that. If you're thinking about purchasing, definitely do that. Refinances are a little higher than purchases, and there's a reason for that. I belong to Mortgage Network. I was telling you this, and I see online that they try to slow down interest rates or refinances a little bit so they can keep the purchases moving. We all close purchases very quickly, but if you've not looked at your interest rate recently,
Now's the time.
Now's the time to do it, because it's definitely and it depends on how long you're going to look at it. I think of myself as a mortgage advisor, and I like to see how long people are planning to stay in their house. I mean, I love to do new loans and things like that, but if it doesn't make economic sense for you as a buyer or a borrower on a refinance, I'm not going to do it.
Give me an option, or example, Diane. What is the distance of time or amount of time that you would say that's something that needs to be considered?
Well, what you do is closing costs in Florida are set. Pretty much. Okay. So you have closing costs, and closing costs in Florida are a little more expensive than they are in Michigan or someplace like that. Okay. Or, in North Carolina, somebody said they were like $2,500. The closing costs in Florida are upper range of probably $5,500. So you're going to take what you're saving every month, the principal and interest, the difference, and you're going to divide that out into whatever those closing costs are. And then you're going to see how long is it going to take me to recoup me adding that to my mortgage, because you can finance it into your mortgage. Right. How long is that going to take me to recoup that? Let's say I'm saving $50 a month. If I'm planning on staying in the house for 4 years and it takes me 2 years to recoup that, whatever the closing costs total are, because it's based on loan amounts, then it makes sense.
I see.
But if it only takes me, if I'm thinking about, I had a customer the other day, they're like, yeah, interest rates have really dropped and I would save a lot of money, but I'm not sure if I want to stay or move. Don't refinance. It doesn't make sense, because if you're going to sell within a year and
there's no value,
because you're actually, you might save for the year, but you've spent the extra money for the closing costs that nobody has control over.
I got you. The other thing I often think of is the changes we see from the Fed or we see national. They affect all markets locally the same, or are we different? California,
no, they do.
Texas?
Well, let me rephrase that. As far as mortgage interest rates, each state is a little different. So Florida happens to be a state that a little riskier. Mm-hmm. It depends on I think California probably is too, but we have it's called risk-based adjustments that are added from, so secondary market, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Right. They're the ones that buy everybody's mortgages eventually, it seems to be. Okay. They kind of, the paper, I should say, right. And they kind of set things. So the interest rates are definitely a little higher in Florida than they may be in some states, but it's not crazy. Right. It's not going to be a 0.25% difference or something like that. It's a very small amount, but it is a risk-based pricing.
And now historically, like you said, we're in a unique space right now, because mm-hmm. historically it's not seen rates like this.
That's correct. This actually sort of happened when the coronavirus happened, mm-hmm. because it's slowing down businesses. So they try to look at what type of growth is they're going to have. What the reason the Feds meet, and the reason the Fed actually lowered interest rates was probably because he was getting some pressure. Right. But the reason they do that is because they want to curb inflation. They don't want the inflation to go rampant, and so that's why they do things like they do. Plus, they look at globally, so they're looking at the rest of the world. As you know, some of the markets have negative, interest rates, so you have to pay them to put your money in the bank. So
I'm not sure I really can grab that one right over my head. Say that again, Diane.
So if you have a negative, let's say a bank, let's say they have a negative, 0.50 or something like that, and or something.
They're making an effort to encourage business.
Well, but the bank is not making money, so they're going to charge you to actually put your money in there. So they make it up other ways, maybe not in interest rate wise, but they will make it up in fees or something.
This whole
like
idea
that.
of forecasting future economic conditions and trying to put buyers in the best position, or keep the market in the best position, is fraught with danger. I would imagine there's some things that impact them they couldn't see. For instance, the coronavirus.
Yeah, they had no idea. Nobody did. So if the market now, and nobody knows, if they wouldn't have lowered rates, we have no idea what would have happened either. It could have corrected itself. You don't know, and that's the thing about economics. Nobody can foretell the future. Mm-hmm. You just have to go with what today's facts are, and that's why the interest rates change every single day. Sometimes we get 2 and 3 changes in a day. So what you may have gotten this morning may not be what you have in the afternoon as far as interest rates go.
So as information becomes available about the seriousness or lack of seriousness regarding this virus, and people try to calculate how it impacts labor, how it's going to impact supplies, all those kind of things,
it's a guess.
I see.
Yeah, nobody knows. I mean, I would hope that as with us, that we seem to be handling it very well as a country, and it seems like we've done a lot of things to actually not have the problems that some of the other countries have had. But again, we're still talking about a world economy. We're not, so even no matter what we do, the whole world itself,
Absolutely. We're subject to
the
all
globe
the
is it's a global economy, and we have people have businesses overseas, you have factories, you have I talked to a customer today, and he travels in 26 different countries, and he happens to be a part of an oil company, and it's affecting him tremendously because of the fear, not so much that it's happening, but they want to keep their employees safe. So it's definitely making a big difference.
So I think you can see from listening to this conversation that it's best to find a trusted advisor in the mortgage space. Diane Vance with Fairway Independent Mortgage, you're a broker, right, Diane?
Well, I'm a mortgage banker. I have my broker's license. I can broker, but Fairway is actually it's actually a correspondent mortgage banker is what we are. So the only thing we are different from the banks is that we don't take deposits. We pretty much kind of work in the same space they do, and we actually close our name, process in our own name, and everything. If I can broker loans if I wouldn't have a product, but we have over
all you need
4,000
right.
4,000 different products.
We're coming into a break here. We got Diane Vance, Fairway Independent Mortgage, coming up. Heather Lalk, fit to a T. I got plenty of questions for Heather. Diane, thanks so much for sharing that information. I hope you folks out there understood what my position is. I'm trying to learn everything I can, and this is the place to do it. So Diane Vance, Fairway Independent Mortgage, lots of information and tips for you, and be aware that this global economy has impact locally. So it's time to think about everything in the world when you're thinking about your own economy. All right, we'll come right back on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Stay with us, consumerqb.com.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, this week we're going to talk about something exciting as usual.
We always have something exciting.
Yes, we do.
At least it's exciting to us.
But this is a question that comes up.
TV, hey, it's Friday night. We're not here. Yes, we pre-recorded once again because WeBeam TV is working over in Tampa with D'Angelo Star.
62 Who Knew. I almost said Professional Mortgage Alliance, Joe's Bar and Grill. But actually, it's our 39th week. 62 Who Knew.
We're at the wonderful steampunk event at the Verizon Event Center here in 2019. I think it's still August, right? Yeah. Woo! Can't remember now. Ask me about Florence
Yes. To be able to help businesses to do that part of it. But it's just been a couple of years.
Well, and I've taken the business card files from our business cards and made
Entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections
Ian
for
Backles on Radio Influence.
Or you say left-hand white, and then they catch the left-hand white. What it does, it helps you quick with hand-eye coordination. Yeah.
Well, that's kind
As your super connector, we want to introduce you to our 50-plus show partners. We got over 80 categories of expert contributor advice here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and we want to.
That's where we disagree, but that's okay.
I said nonviolent.
That's okay.
Because, we're one of the only states that don't give them back the right. I've got Jamie Limbaugh. He is from the Next Step image. I love that image because you were telling me earlier.
For the type of republic we actually are is actually very correct. Yet politicians and regular people use these words interchangeably, even though technically they are very different.
you're an overdoer, overachiever, people pleaser, we tend to neglect ourselves. And even as Sisters Connected here, with Women Unscripted, I know.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon Rhymes is out today. I think he's at Podfest. He's everywhere. So
not Potfest, right?
No. I think there's a D in there. He will be everywhere. You can't miss him online, out there. He's everywhere. So find him and check him out. But this show is his baby, and he's been doing it for years. He brings everyone together and tries to provide some information to empower U.S. consumers. And another thing he does is tell you a feel-good story. I got a tease for you about a woman who was dumped for being too fat, ends up winning Miss Great Britain. 26-year-old woman. A great story for you coming up in our feel-good segment. You don't want to miss that. Related a little bit here in terms of taking care of your body and taking care of your health. Heather Lalk, Fit to a T, is in the house. Heather, what's going on today?
I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I have some not fun, but interesting facts that came from Forbes about the dairy industry.
Really?
And some changes going on.
Forbes, the big money folks.
Yeah, they were talking about the U.S. milk sellers are going bankrupt. Big, huge ones in the last year. Warden, January 6th, and then Dean, November of last year.
I don't have anyone coming out and saying milk is bad for you, but it definitely seems like I'm drinking a lot less milk than I was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think people are realizing that depending on where our ancestry came from and how our enzymes in our bodies are set up, we're really not, as humans, have the enzymes in us to break down cow's milk.
When you say it like that, it makes perfect sense. Why am I drinking cow's milk? But it just, I mean, as a kid, that's it. You're drinking milk and cereal, and that's all you do all day.
Yeah, you can talk to clients that were born in the 40s, and they said, well, back in the day, I had an allergy when I was a kid. So it was happening back then, and we weren't even having all this pasteurization and all the other things that are kind of yuck to even discuss what's going on. But anything from goats and sheep's milk is much easier for us to digest. But people are being more aware of that, and I think because of how the animals are being mistreated and being fed steroids so they can produce milk year-round because they're not really supposed to, realistically.
There's some crazy documentaries out there, folks. If you want to learn a little bit more about this, Google some of that stuff. You'll see how the farm industry is a crazy, huge business.
Yeah, and it did go down. I guess between 2008 and 2018, milk consumption went down 18.4%.
Wow.
So that's a huge. But the nut and plant-based milk increased dramatically by 9% in 2018.
And from a nutritional standpoint, of course, Heather Lalk is a nutritionist as well. Tell me, almond milk, the different milks, the benefits I used to think of in skim milk or fat-free milk, I used to get a lot of protein and not a lot of calories and not a lot of fat. Same thing with almond milk, soy, any of these others?
Yeah, it's almost like when you had skim milk, if you were lactose intolerant, that makes the lactose even more so it's even worse for you.
So you're saying, wait a minute, again, I'm catching up here. Skim milk has more lactose than whole milk?
You're going to be more affected by that lactose,
really?
because they're thinning that out by the skin
I had no
process.
idea.
But, almond milk, coconut milk, because they have higher healthy fats in them, sometimes people turn to coconut milk because they like the taste, or they just have more of a nut allergy possibly, or they can't digest it as well. And a lot of people don't buy nut milk because they've had such a overconsumption of it that they're kind of suffering as well, especially in California for almonds, like almond milk.
I didn't even, I see them all, like you said, explosion in the last couple of years. You see all these different milk choices in the supermarket. I didn't know if one was healthier or what maybe specific benefits to either any kind.
Yeah, oat milk they have now. They have hemp milk. So it's kind of like what your choice is, and you kind of figure out what your body likes and needs. So it's really...
That's the great part about Heather, and part of what I always espouse when people ask me anything about diet or whatever. it's unique to your own constitution, right? You got to try things and see how you respond and what works for you. It's not the same for everybody.
No, everyone has their own little microbiome that they go by. And like I said, too, it comes from your ancestral background. So if you had maybe European descent or different parts of Europe, you may be set up a little bit differently. So it really goes back. You can trace it a lot. I mean, the kind of like the DNA testing and all of that really has something.
That's very cool.
Something good.
How can I become lean and stay lean by diversifying my workout, Heather?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up just because, eating is everything. It really is. I mean, I have clients now that kind of hit a plateau. They're great. They're so athletic. They're into it. They've lost tons of weight. And for their energy expenditure, they're never hungry. And I said, there's a problem with that. You should be hungry because you are constantly biking. You are constantly doing type of HIIT stuff. You're doing weights. So that's when I'd kind of recommend to them, hey, even for a week or 2 weeks, try to eat a different way. Maybe eat more meals, but measure them out. Be very specific and cut some things out. Add some other things and just see how your body performs. That's one of the best ways, and less expensive ways than going and getting all these tests and all this other stuff done right away.
I just know that the idea that your diet could be helpful in terms of your recovery, in terms of your sleep, all these different things that you don't think about necessarily as related to your diet definitely are.
No, it is huge, but it also has to adapt, and fine tune your eating, but it has to be something that you can change your lifestyle towards. So if it's something that you're going to be like, oh, well, I can do that for 2 months, don't choose that because you're just not,
That's kind of my opinion on the crazy cleanses. When I've dated a girl in the past that, lemon juice and cayenne pepper for how can you sustain that? That's not good.
No, you can only do that just for a cleanse. But there are ways of you can do it with the eating. You need to be consistent with it. And then also the training comes into it. You really need to diversify your training.
When you say diversify your training, you're not just talking about exercise diversification. You're talking about sets and repetition and everything, changing the way you do everything you do.
Correct. You're talking about the tissue breakdown, and then that prompts that I can't
hypertrophy.
Talk today.
It took me a while.
I
started now. How about
can't.
that?
I was like, I'm going to stumble on that. But you have eccentric stress when you have lighter loads. So you want to include those with more reps in there with your metabolic. And then you also want to do heavier sometimes with less reps.
See, this is all new to me. As I got older, I had more soreness. I was recovering less. And I thought maybe I'll just adapt my workout and do less. And then it was suggested to me that higher volume repetition can have the effect of giving you a little more energy, in fact, or stimulating hormone release.
Yeah, it can. And then because it's that metabolic rate, it pumps that up. And then when you're doing heavier sets, you want to, make sure that you're tracing that and tracking that. And then also on the negatives, meaning when you're coming down, you push up and then you're coming down off of that. Do that very slowly because that tears those muscle fibers. And then what we do is feed them with protein and then they grow. So that's where that growth comes from.
Now, when you're someone who's getting older like myself and you're thinking your recovery process is not what it used to be, what are some of the things that people emphasize? Sleep to me a lot. You've got to get your sleep. You've got to be careful in terms of not your rest is critical to your recovery. And so your diet and sleep kind of go together in terms of recovery.
Yeah, and everything. I mean, you can just tell people's breathing is different, and if they're paying attention more, they're just kind of really. I can't talk today, apparently.
Well,
they're dragging.
I wanted to ask you because you used the phrase, diversifying your workout. Is that the same as a muscle confusion principle? I've heard that used a lot where they see the term muscle confusion.
Yeah, because we adapt so quickly, our body. So if you're doing mediocre weight, and you're doing 20 reps all the time, well, your body's going to go, okay, whatever. You're never going to do anything. You're never going to get anywhere. So what you need is to trick your muscles. You need to trick your body. The same thing is when you do interval training. You're having your heart rate go up and down, and you have more oxygen in your blood. So that's why you see even the younger people, guys, especially in the gyms, doing all kinds of different things, walking lunges, body weight stuff, even, bikini pros, they're in there doing really heavy weights. You're like, holy mackerel, she's little and she's doing that. But then you also see her doing stuff with bands and body weight.
That's the biggest change I've seen. I mean, as someone who's been around exercise and fitness for a long time, you remember the old days, it was all weights. And at least for guys, it was about size and it was about 6 to 8 reps and pyramid sets and all these different things. I see so many guys have adapted to body weight and flexibility being a primary thing they're working on.
Right.
And it changes your joints so much better for your knees and your back and all the different things. I mean, old powerlifter guys are so beat up by the time they're 55, 60 years old.
Oh, they are. And that's why a lot of people now understand that when they're getting older, even meaning older. And I'm saying in their 40s, it's young,
Right.
but they're realizing, hey, what my lifestyle has changed, and what I want to accomplish is much different. So I want to be able to maintain this and be athletic and not get hurt and be able to play with my kids and the grandkids and things like that.
Well, I'm sure you've seen it too in the fitness industry. The gyms have taken on a whole new look. They've got the rope climbing and all the different things to keep you busy and
Right.
change the whole direction of your workout.
Yes.
I'm not sure I understand isometric hold exercises. What do you mean by that, Heather, when you say that?
It's movement that isn't moving. They're basically holds. You hold for about 15 to 30
So
seconds.
a plank, is that an example?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can do different renditions of a plank. Planks are great full body exercise workouts. Also works your glutes depending on the way you do them. I found they were great with people that have disc problems, herniated, bulging discs, because a lot of times we were doing exercises. They had some pain, and I said, okay, well, let's stop. You need to go to your chiropractor or your doctor, and let's see. I'd make a list of all the things that we worked on. And I was surprised when they came back and said, well, they're sit-ups. You can't do sit-ups. And I said, okay, well, we need to strengthen. And he said, well, but you need to strengthen your core.
Right.
And I go, okay. so let me think about that. So these are great exercises, and people like that. I have one in particular that is helping and working for him. And that's why these are great, because you can just hold. You don't have to have that flexion going on, but it's really contracted, your
And
whole
that goes
abdominals.
back to Heather's idea of customization. Now, not every workout's for every person. You need to learn what works for you, what works for your diet, what works for your routine. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, you've got classes. What's going on over at your place? Tell me.
And next month I'm going to start some free to the community workshops at bringing different professionals in, like about anti-aging, different alternatives to doing mammograms, things of that nature. I also do some things about nutrition. And then also we're going to start some different boot camps. And then I'm probably going to be doing some Zumba Strong, which isn't the dancing part, but it is the HIIT training, high intensity interval training. But there'll be different levels. So what I want to promote is people that are not inexperienced, so they feel comfortable and they're getting taught by a professional to do things correctly, and they feel more comfortable when they walk into a gym or somewhere else, and they know what to do, why they're doing it, and they don't feel self-conscious as well.
How do you coach people about the recovery phase? You know, I never even considered it when I was younger. It never was something I was worried about. Now I really do consider what this impact would be, how many days it would take me to recover, that kind of thing, because my next routine is kind of based on how I recovered in my mind. Should I just push through that, or what do you think about that?
Just depends on what you're accomplishing and what you're doing. A lot of times if you are dragging that badly and you haven't slept well, it's not a good idea to go to the gym,
right?
Because you could hurt yourself.
That's the mindset. You want to push yourself, but you want to be smart. And as I've gotten older, I realize I'm not getting anything out of it. I'll go in there and I'll kill myself, but if I'm not in the right frame of mind and I'm not healthy at the time I go in, it's
right.
Yeah.
And you have to listen to your body, and it's always that mind-muscle connection. I was listening to one of the, she's actually a pro, but she also does a lot of videos and educational things for people on different programs. And she said even for her, she has amazing physique, even for her glutes, because people complained, I can't get my glutes to be where they need to be. She said, I literally have to concentrate. We do exercises prior to that to set that up so they're engaged.
Right.
So that is a big, huge component of it. And if you're not paying attention or you're out of it, you're tired, you're not really going to be able to do that muscle mind connection.
We used to have another thing in coaching where if it's a priority, hit it while you have energy. So adjust your routine. So the first thing you do when you've got all your energy is this thing that we're going to say is our priority, whether it's your feet or your legs or whatever it is.
And that's when it comes into play to diversification. If you're tired and you're not feeling that strong, if you had a workout in your head and all you do is heavy weights, you should not be doing that. And again, then if you had something else that you have, the lighter lifting and the eccentric moves, then you're like, cool, this is a perfect time for me to do that. Slow and controlled, and you'll get benefits from that as well.
How often do you find folks that have been doing something their whole life and they've been doing it wrong? a sit-up, for instance. I've seen all variations of sit-up. I've seen
Yeah.
guys doing crazy things with weights on incline benches
yeah.
and things, and you're wondering, man, that looks like my back would just break if I
Oh,
tried.
it's true. Yeah. And you can't say anything a lot of times because you want to help and be like, no, you're going to hurt yourself. Oh my gosh. Or people are just doing it so fast. And I'm like, you're getting nothing. Like you said, you're getting nothing out of that exercise. You need to slow down. Your muscles not even being able to have time to contract and not. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that you could try to help people. And there's so much to learn.
Right.
And everybody has a different style.
That's why you want to take advantage of these classes that Heather offers and check her out up there. It's Dunedin.
Correct.
Give me the address again, Heather.
1059 Broadway, Suite B. So it's on the corner. It's by Broadway and Skinner over there by Seventh Sun Brewery.
Lots of great knowledge about nutrition, about your exercise routine. Come, let her analyze where you're at and see if she can't give you some great advice on how to move forward. We're coming into a break here. When we come back, we got that feel-good story for you. I want to tell you about a woman who was dumped for being too fat, and then she ends up winning Miss Great Britain. How about that? So come on back, Consumer Quarterback Show, ConsumerQB.com.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at ConsumerQB.com. Ian Beck.
All right, this week we're going to talk about something exciting as usual.
We always have something exciting.
Yes, we do.
At least it's exciting to us.
This is a question that comes up.
TV, hey, it is Friday night. We're not here. Yes, we pre-recorded once again because WeBeam TV is working over in Tampa with D'Angelo Star.
62 who knew. I almost said Professional Mortgage Alliance, Joe's Bar and Grill, but actually it's our 39th week. 62 who knew.
We're at the wonderful steampunk event at the Verizon Event Center here in 2019. I think it's still August, right? Yeah. Woo! Can't remember anymore. Ask Anthony about Florida law.
Yes. To be able to help businesses to do that part of it. But it's just been a couple of years.
Well, and I've taken the business card files from our business cards and made
Entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections
Ian
for
Beckles on Radio Influence.
Or you say left-hand white, and then they catch the left-hand white. What it does, it helps you quick with hand-eye coordination. Yeah.
Well, that's kind
as your super connector. We want to introduce you to our 50-plus show partners. We got over 80 categories of expert contributor advice here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and we want to.
That's where we disagree, but that's okay.
I said nonviolent.
That's okay.
Because, you know, we're one of the only states that don't give them back the right. Got Jamie Limbaugh. He is from the Next Step image. I love that image because you were telling me earlier.
For the type of republic we actually are is actually very correct. Yet politicians and regular people use these words interchangeably, even though technically they are very different.
If you're an overdoer, overachiever, people pleaser, we tend to neglect ourselves. And even as Sisters Connected here, you know, with Women Unscripted, I know.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at ConsumerQB.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is out today. I think he's picking up some more knowledge for you. When he gets back here next week, we'll learn all about the stuff he's discovered. I have a feel-good story for you, and that's the basic. I mean, one of the things I really liked about the show when I started working for Brandon was the concept that we're going to try to be positive. We're going to try to bring people together. We're going to try to give them some information, some knowledge. So to that end, we've got a story for you, a feel-good story today about a woman who was dumped for being too fat, and then she ends up winning Miss Great Britain. So a 26-year-old woman has been crowned Miss Great Britain after once being dumped by her fiancé for being too heavy. So Jen Atkin lost a whopping 112 pounds. She went from 247 to 131 in 2 years. Wow. She decided enough was enough when she couldn't fit into her favorite dress, and she got dumped by her ex-fiance. Can you imagine? She said, when we broke up, I was devastated, but it ended up being the best thing that's happened to me. After years of being obese, unhealthy, and uncomfortable, I finally found motivation and managed to lose, she says, 8 stone, which apparently is about 130 pounds to Brit. So it transformed me into this ambitious, hardworking person in all areas of my life. Achieving something so incredible changed my mindset, made me realize if I worked enough, I could achieve it. In 2017, she took part in her first pageant. She was one of 10 finalists. 3 years later, she won the ultimate prize, being named the 75th Miss Great Britain during the national final. She said, although my body has changed so much, I don't think my personality has. I think that helped me. I think the judges got to see what kind of person I really am. 130 pounds, guys. That's a lot of weight to lose for one person.
Hey, that fiance, I hope he sees that, right?
How about that?
Ex-fiance or ex-boyfriend.
I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine that. I'm assuming she's making the connection. I don't think anyone comes right out and says, you know what?
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I hope
That
not.
is awful.
You never know.
Oh my
I would
gosh.
hope not. Oh, I'm
Heather,
sorry.
what happens when you lose 130 pounds?
Well, sometimes people have excess skin that they have to
Yeah,
deal with.
I
And,
could imagine.
there's other ways to deal with that. But if you do it safely, and all of that, then you shouldn't have a problem.
I could imagine her back and knees felt so much different after that. I mean, I could imagine
Yeah.
I felt so much different after losing 30 pounds.
She's did it over 2 years, so it wasn't quick. It was a long process.
yeah.
So that's healthier, right?
I always say to people when they lose weight or they're carrying too much, I said, if you have 80 pounds, let's say, I'm like, go over there and pick up that 80-pound weight. Pick it up.
Yeah, you have
Carry
no
it.
idea.
Walk with it because you're doing that right now.
Yeah, it's true. And
So-
like I said, your ankles and knees, it makes a big difference on your joints.
It does. It's a big strain.
Well, congratulations to her. I'm so glad that
Good for
she's
her.
feeling good about
that's
herself.
awesome. She's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that you'd let somebody run you down like that. If it was always in her. That's the thing. When you got to motivate people sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine you got to find that they don't really think I can do it. Can I do this?
So I imagine her motivation is, I'll show him.
Right.
You have to find your why. That was
Right.
her why.
Yeah.
That'll do it. That'll get you up and
Good
going.
for her. That's awesome.
All right. Well, we're closing up the show here. We got a few minutes left. I wanted to give everyone a chance to make some final points. Diane, I know you helped me a lot today understanding interest rates and how they affect our local marketplace. What can you tell Tampa Bay real estate folks out there that might help them?
Well, if you're renting, the time is now
Yeah.
to buy. I mean, if you've gotten a tax refund, you can use that for down payment. There's down payment assistance programs out there. So interest rates are very low. So don't wait. Because if you wait, we don't know what interest rates are going to be next year. They probably will be higher, but just don't wait. Do it now while interest rates are low.
And we talk on the show a lot about barriers to entry. People come up with, I'm worried about my credit, or I don't think I've got a good situation going forward financially in terms of the down payment money I have saved up.
Right.
There's options.
Yes, there's options, and you have to start somewhere. So I talked to a customer the other day, and she's like, it's time for me to move again. She's renting, and she's like, I'm tired of moving. I just keep moving, and I have to come up with first, last, and security. And I'm like, how much is that? And I said, you can actually buy a place for that. So there's ways to actually get into a home, and if you have credit issues, just start somewhere. We're here to advise you and tell you what to do. There's a lot of things that we can do to help you with that. You just have to start. It may not be today, it may be later, but if you are able to purchase now is a great time, because you're going to get more for your money because interest rates are low.
Yeah, we talk on the show with William Crowley, the credit
Right.
magician, all the time
I
about
send him a
things he
lot of
can
customers.
do. There's
Yep.
lots of things that you can do out there, guys. Don't feel like you're stuck and you don't have an option.
Yeah, definitely don't just put your head in the sand and ignore it, because you need to have a plan. I'll see so many people that once something bad happens to, that everybody knows bad things happen to good people, and something may happen, medical, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, and they haven't done anything with it for 5 years, and they haven't reestablished credit or anything like that. And if they can do that, so if you can have any positives that offsets negatives, negatives that helps their credit. And but there's always help out there. There's a lot of help in the community. William, we do a lot of things to actually help people.
Right.
So.
So take that first step. Don't be afraid. Reach out. Diane Vance, Fairway Independent Mortgage. Find out if it's free. It's something you want to do as early as you can. I look back at myself. I wish I bought 10 years earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You build equity.
Yeah, it helps
you
you.
actually build equity. And then when you want to buy the next house, guess what? You have money.
That's
you
right.
have equity built up into the house that you bought.
All right, Heather. Heather Lalk, fit to a T. As we talked about her studio in Dunedin, she's got some great information for you. Heather, give us a couple of nuggets here as we go.
Just quit doing 5,000 crunches. You can also do those isometric holds,
Right.
and talk a little bit about that, and then explore all the opportunities that you have with diversifying your training. No, don't just choose one, because you'll really limit yourself on the potential that your body has.
Now, when you say choose one, you mean heavy cardio, or I just do weights or whatever it is?
Exactly, because if you're just going to do cardio and run at the same tempo, at the same speed, you might as well go home and drink a glass of wine.
I didn't think about that. So how often, what's a good frequency to look at your workout and kind of see what needs to change?
I mean, you can do it every 3 months. Take a look at it and see where you're at. I mean, but you have to make goals. You have big goals and you have to make those small goals, just like anything else.
Yeah, that's the key.
And then just kind of recheck yourself or have someone else revisit that.
So if you have a client come in and he says, weight loss, or he has some general goals, you'll sit down and you'll make a short term, like in a month we want to be here, and then in 6 months we want to be there.
Oh yeah, and then we'll recheck, and then if they want to send me pictures, that's very confidential. I keep them just between the client and I. Then we can also look at those. I take measurements, and we also check for conditioning. So that's a huge thing for me. I said, well, the biggest, most important muscle, or not the biggest, but the most important muscle in your body is your heart.
Sure.
I'm like, and it's stronger. Fantastic.
Right.
Now you can get to the next level, and then maybe now you want to speed up your fat loss. Now we can do HIIT training because you're actually ready and prepared for it.
So you can see the advantages. I mean, there's lots of folks out there that can read and think they have knowledge about fitness, but when you have a professional, you see all the different angles, and it certainly helps to have someone else look at your routine from a distance.
Oh yeah, even the professionals, we need other people.
Great show today, guys. Thanks so much for helping me out understanding some of these topics that I need some information on. Just like you, the consumers, we do our best to educate you guys all the time. Diane Vance, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Heather Lalk, fit to a T. Thanks so much for coming in, sharing your stories with us. Remember, check us out online, consumerquarterback.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for The Consumer Quarterback Show.